Good afternoon. My name is Matt McCleary, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to this session of the conference. I hope everyone is having a great week so far. This session is called International Approaches to Adult Living with Prader-Willi Syndrome. And before we get started, I just want to quickly thank PWS USA for giving us the opportunity to have this session. Paige and Michelle and the whole crew, it's amazing the work that your organization does, and including this conference, which is probably no small accomplishment. But you know, PWS is certainly a challenging situation, but I think the work of PWSA USA and sort of consolidating and leveraging all the knowledge and spirit and financial resources of the community is just amazingly valuable. And so I know we're all very appreciative of that. I'm very pleased to have this group with me today, and I am just really excited for the next hour or so we're going to spend together. I'd like to just quickly introduce the panel. Lee Chamberlain from Latham Centers in Cape Cod, Mass. Lee.
Hey, Matt.
Great to have you. Thank you so much for doing this. Norbert Hodebeck-Stuntebeck, who is in North Rhine-Westphalia in northern Germany. And Karen Birkdahl, who is on the beautiful island of Fejø in Denmark. How did I do, Karen?
It was okay.
And I've been practicing just one word, but it's great to have you guys. Before we kick it off, I thought maybe I would just give you a little background on why I'm on the screen. My wife and I live on Cape Cod, not too far from Lee, and we're very fortunate to be here. We have three boys, three teenage boys. One of our 14-year-old twins has Prader-Willi syndrome. And so I have the honor of serving on the board of PWSA USA and also the fabulous Latham Centers where Lee is, and our son is a residential student at Latham. So the idea for the panel came up really from my day job. I work in the international shipping business. You can see evidence of that right there. That's a super tanker loading crude oil in Saudi Arabia, headed for Japan. But one of the things about our business is that we have a real culture of kind of looking at different countries and different systems around the world in terms of how they approach challenges and opportunities. And so the idea for this panel sort of came from that. The idea was that, you know, since PWS knows no geographic boundaries, why should the sort of treatment and sharing of knowledge have any geographic boundaries? Because no matter where we live in the world, no matter what language we speak, you know, a lot of our children have some similarities. And so that's the purpose of the panel today. As our son got older, we started to familiarize ourselves with the various adult living kind of strategies and approaches. And what we found was that while there's a tremendous amount of emphasis on early intervention and diagnosis and even you know, potential medications, we didn't find as much on the sort of adult living sort of landscape. And there's certainly a tremendous amount of knowledge about it, and on this panel in particular. But we started to research this and kind of familiarize ourselves with it. So that's really the purpose of the panel. We're going to take a little trip around the world here for the next few minutes, and I'm very excited to have the opportunity to be the tour guide. You're going to hear a lot of sort of practical things today, and I just want to say that there are no like wrong or right answers. Every country is different, every family is different, every individual is different. Even if you look at where Lee and I are in America, every state is different. Even one state that's right next to another one is different. So it's complicated. But I think what all of us hope, you know, Karen, Lee, Norbert, and I hope is that you'll come away with some ideas, you know, feeling a little bit excited and empowered about what's happening around the world, and take it from there. So enough from me. I'd like to turn it over to the panelists, and I'd like to just start by kind of setting the stage and asking each of you sort of what is your PWS offering, as Norbert might say, and why don't we kick that off with Lee?
Well, thanks, Matt. And it's nice to see everybody. Can't wait till we can all get together in person. And thank you for asking me to join the panel. I really appreciate it. At Latham Centers, we provide programming to individuals diagnosed with PWS from the ages of 8 through forever, as long as people live. We have a special educational school and a residential program on Cape Cod and Brewster. And we serve up to 45 to 50 children at any given time who have a diagnosis of PWS or another complex behavioral or medical issue, but primarily PWS. In addition to that, we have programs for adults who are diagnosed with PWS. And it's a varied program. It has individual supports. So people who, as adults, may be living at home with their parents, their guardians, a brother or sister, or on their own in the community, or with a husband or wife or a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. We have apartments. We have three apartments and hoping to broaden that this year to a 4th apartment. We have what in the United States would be considered a typical group home, small group home in communities, in houses, and that's spread, our program is spread geographically throughout southeastern Massachusetts. And we have what we're referring to as, I guess was referring to them as smart homes, but are smart apartments. I don't know that the apartment itself is particularly smart, but what we've done is we've utilized and enabled technology within some of the apartments to help people have more access, more to the community, more independence, and more privacy.
That's great. Thank you, Lee. And we're going to talk more about the technology a little bit later. Karen, could you quickly describe Solvang?
Yes, I can. Thank you for joining this panel. I'm a leader of a resident in Denmark, and we have 10 residents with Prader-Willi living with our place. It is 10 apartments, different, where they all have a kitchen, bathroom, and a sitting room, and a sleeping room. We have also one living outside of Solvang, so has a little bit more privacy and live in a different society. We have been having employment, 3 different places where you can come to the stable, or we have a farm where we have old furniture get fixed, or selling new things in a shop. And last we had like garden and also kitchen activity. We are 31 employments, included temporary staff, and we joined the social life on the island. It's maybe a little bit easier because it's a small local closed island. So environment is easy to be joined. I've been building the Solvang up since 2002, and I have experience for 1997 with Prader-Willi syndrome.
That's great. Thank you very much, Karen. Norbert?
Yes, as Lee said, I much more enjoy to be in Orlando now and stay there and be together with the others and discuss all these things. But maybe next year it will be a chance to do this. Yes, Norbert Hödebeck-Stuntebeck, and I'm a psychologist here in one part of Germany, and I'm working for 2 parts. One part is an institution which takes care of around 3,000 people with different kinds of handicaps, and 75 of them are people with Prader-Willi. And they are located at different places, 200 kilometers far from each other. We have 2 group homes for children, 7 and 8, and the others are for the adults. And in classical groups, like 8 or 10 people, but also the newer office we have are apartments where they have their own places where they have their own spots, where they have their own bathroom, kitchen, and so. And this is a good development over the 23 years. This is the time we support people with Prader-Willi. And in the other part, I'm working for the PWS Institute Germany, and there we go in the families. We support people who are living at home, or we do trainings, or do conferences. So, as you said, Karen, you started in 1997. I think I started in 1995, and Lee, I'm sure you have the same experience. So it's interesting to have a view back over this long period and all the things we saw which change. And I hope we can discuss some of these changes in the way of taking care of people with Prader-Willi. So I'm very thankful to be a part of this group.
Norbert, thank you. And I think, you identified sort of a key issue, which is change, and I think that's something that I'm looking forward to sort of talking more about today, because the institutional system, and by which I mean just the sort of government approach, it changes kind of more slowly than perhaps the population is capable of maybe adapting and improving in terms of sort of living. So it's an important topic. I want to start with some kind of practical stuff. There are different theories about the right location for kind of adult living with PWS. And, some of the considerations are, the countryside has certain benefits. Being in a city has certain benefits. Each of these come with sort of pros and cons. I would just be curious, and Karen, we could start with you. How big a role do you think the environment is? You're obviously in you're in a sort of beautiful rural island environment. Do you think that's been a successful location for your PWS?
I think it actually is a really great, of course, many other things can be possible, but what we can see that we can give some more freedom for things. We don't pass a shop because we walk through the island. There's not this difficult where you have seen a lot of rubbish or shops, and you don't get disturbed from all that. So I think that with being on a outside country, it's a great things. And I think also it is really possible to make a lot of exercise without thinking about the exercise, because we have to move around. So that's some of the things I think is really great to live on the country. And especially as some of our residents said one time in Denmark, there was built one in the big city, and they just looked to me and say, why they do that, Karen? It's not fair, because all these shops have rubbish outside. And that's turned my heart for our place. I know they like that.
Thank you, Karen. Lee, what is your kind of approach to this, and how do you guys look at it?
Yeah, at Latham, I think it could best be described as we approach it from a person-centered point of view, that the best location is the location that is typical of any adult who may be living on Cape Cod. It is, we believe that what the person wants, as long as we can provide health and safety for that individual. I think Karen raised some really good points, because I know when I have had to site houses or site locations, I have stayed away from highways or very active streets for the most part. But we've found that we can pretty much help people transition to almost any environment. Cape Cod is technically a rural area. It's about an hour from Boston, so it isn't rural by what most of us would think of as rural. So people get exposed to a wide variety of communities. Most of our programs are located in typical residential communities, like you or I might live in. And we support people. I think that absolutely walking through the town or walking through a store filled with all sorts of possible triggering items could be anxiety provoking, but we've found that with the correct support and with the correct support throughout their stay with us, we've been able to help people work through that.
That's great. Thank you, Lee. And of course, I mean, it bears mentioning that everyone is different. I mean, some people like to live in the country and others like to live in the city. So I think that goes without saying. Norbert, what is your kind of experience? You've been doing this for a long time and actually you have the largest group of anyone here, 70 plus. So what is your feeling on this?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of history or historical things which changed in my mind too. So and at the end, I think the variety, as Lee said, the variety to have the chance to make offers to the different people or to their needs. This is what we realized over the time. So as I said, we have different locations where we are, and what I see and what I saw is that people are really happy in the middle of the city. In the view to McDonald's, and they are able to live there. So what I always say, or what I learned over the time, is it is possible if we have enough and qualified staff, and we can support the people. This is what you said, Matt. Some people love to live in the countryside, some people love to live in the city, and this is the same by people with Prader-Willi. And so I think, yes, it is possible. That we have these different places, and we see that people are happy in the city. We see that people are more happy in a little bit more in a place not in the inner city. But in my mind, the main criteria is that people with Prader-Willi have the chance to go to offers by themselves in a walking distance. So we had situations where it was not in this way, and they are always dependent on staff. So someone develops his competences, he could go alone, but it is too far. And so he needs someone from the staff, and then it is not independent, and he cannot develop his competences. So at this point, maybe in 20 years, I changed my view, but in this point, I say the main criteria is walkable distance to offers in the social room.
Mm-hmm. That's funny because Karen, you basically described the same thing in the country, that actually you can be independent in an environment that's a little less, I don't want to say dangerous, but a little more rural.
But also I will give Norbert and Lee correct that it is still a lot of dependent of the staff, because I also believe it can be possible many places and not only on the country. It is dependent of the staff, and this is one of the most important things, that you have good staff.
I mean, European cities and culture is much more geared toward walking generally. I mean, Lee and I live in the land of the big car. I mean, would be having the houses, Lee, in the sort of suburban neighborhoods, which is really sort of the standard here, right? You would say that's the most typical. That creates like some transportation.
It does.
needs, right?
Transportation challenges. Cape Cod doesn't have a true public transportation system. So most transport needs to be done by car, foot, bike, other means of transportation. Absolutely. We are limited that way. I'm not sure that I don't know that I think public transportation raises a whole bunch of other issues for individuals with PWS or intellectual disabilities. There are all sorts of risks out there. So yeah, I don't know.
Right. I guess that's a theme that's going to come up a lot, which is this idea of independence versus safety.
Right.
Right. Norbert, I mean, how do you balance those things? I mean, that seems very complicated.
The same as in all other things, it's individual, but we have a principle, and this is what we developed, and this is a change, a little bit of paradigm change, that when we start safety was in our view, because we read things, we hear things 20 years ago, that it is necessary to make all the things safety for them. But we do not check people with Prader-Willi in the right way. They are much more competent as we thought 20 years ago. So the goal is to reach the most highest level of independence, but individual. One is coming to a very high level with training, with support, with make things sure and have a framework and things. But other people have not the chance because of their, maybe of their genetic basic. And it is not only PWS change, it is basic genetic things from their parents. And so this is our goal or our principle, to reach the highest level of independence. And yes, and see what individual is possible. And we need time for develop these competences, but they are able to develop their competences. Therefore, we need the environment, the competent staff, and the interaction between all these things in the system where they are living.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You know, one of the things that I've kind of gathered here is that, you know, the system really changes when kids leave the school district. And Lee, you're very familiar with this.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, it's why this topic is so important, right? Because the adult life of someone with PWS is very long, you know, I mean, based on a full life expectancy. But at the same time, you know, it's when the benefits that you get from the government are typically much less. It's when the parents, who I think are in many cases the ultimate caregivers and coordinators of medical needs, might not be available or able. And so this issue of the adult living is like, it seems like just so incredibly important. Norbert, when you talk about, and this is really for everybody, but when you talk about helping individuals sort of reach their maximum level of independence, does that happen before they come into the adult program? Or so Latham is very unique and great, because if the kids are in the school, there's this continuity, and so you can see kind of how to plan it. What is it like in Germany?
It depends on the situation. So if they start in our group homes for children, the youngest we take care is 5 years. So if we have the chance to support them in the childhood time, then we have the chance to prepare them and prepare the transition from adolescence to adult. But we often have the situation that people come to us when they are 20, 30 or 30 or 40. So then we have no chance to do this. But if we have, in our group, we do this, and we start very early with this independence and involve them in decisions and discuss and reflect with them the challenging behavior so that they learn these things. When they are at home, we have the chance by the things we do, this consultation we do by this Prader-Willi Institute, that we go in the families or people come to my office and we start these things, but not so intensive as they are in the group homes.
But is it in Germany, is it the school district that is responsible for the individual to a certain age, and are they facilitating the sort of transition to the adult program?
Yes, but in this special case of Prader-Willi, often people are not informed and what are the special things and how can they support them in a good way when they are 14, 15 or 16. So sometimes we have the chance to go to the school and support them. So then the transition will be a little bit more smoother maybe. But here we have the situation that these two group homes for children, they go to the schools of our company. So we are in the good interaction between school and living and transition. And we offer them to go in one of our living options for adults. If they use these, then we can support and we can support these this way. And we have the chance. It's good. Yeah.
Karen, how about for you? How does it work at Solvang? Do you begin to interact with individuals before they come as a transition, or is it like they just come and then you
Yeah, normally we don't have so big chance. We like if we have a possibility to make a lot of research before they move in, but it's not always possible. But we are also looking a lot of for the individual, and we like to make a program from individual. We don't make so long is that's the rule, because there are so many different skills, and that's important that we look at that one and try to help to develop that skills. And often we don't get a lot of information, and that's really sad, because there should be a lot from the schools, where we are a small country, and it's not always function. But we try to get in all what we can, and we try to have a lot of communication with the parents, because we know they know a lot, and we have some special question and all we ask about. So we try to get all the information as good as we can, and program before they move in, and also how they should their day look like. And normally we don't put a lot in the start, because we think it's quite a lot just to move from home. And also because many, like Norbert said, we get them in older age. It's a beginning now to get them younger, and I think it's a good for the Prader-Willi, has a chance to come to a group home and get grown up together with this family that become your second family. So I think it's quite good. It started being earlier that man look for group homes. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Lee, you mentioned sort of through life as the duration. Is that the way it is? I mean, do people stay in the same house? I mean, I know things happen, but typically that's the goal.
Assuming there isn't anything weird, or unusual that happens, most people stay in the same house. The house and the individuals that live in the house with them are really become their family. And it becomes their house. I know that one of the things that we did over the past couple of years is we opened up 2 new houses, and we involved the individuals who are going to be moving into those houses to participate in the design of the house, participate in what was in the house, what appliances, what colors and things like that. It becomes their home, their house. And so we do everything possible to not move them from that. We have a growing aging population in our adult program. And so the houses that we just opened are fully adaptable to what one would expect from a typical and a PWS aging population. So the corridors are wider, things are lower, so that people are able to adapt to it. So we find very similar things.
Yeah, I had the chance to visit those houses. They are just great. Yeah. I mean, really wonderful.
Yeah, the individuals living in them love them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Who wouldn't? Norbert, how about you? Are you trying to kind of graduate people to more and more independence, or is it like kind of what Lee and Karen said, that they get settled in and develop a family, and that's sort of more permanent residence?
The experience is that people live over a long time when they are adults, over a long time in the group homes. But when we have the chance to build up new houses, and this is what we do more and more, then we offer these places, and they can apply for this. And we make, like, when I will have a new job, I have a talk to the new boss maybe, and this is the same. We have a process where we offer these places, and people can say, I'm interested in living in these. And then they have the chance to see these, and they have to discuss with us why they want to go to this place and why they should have this place and not the other one. It is a supported competitive thing, and this is what we did not do 20 years ago. But now we are sure, and we have experience with this, and it works very well. That people feels involved, that they feel at the same level as they see by others, and so this is my view or my dream, that we have enough options that they can make a change, and that they can say, I like to live more in the city, or no, years later they want to live in a countryside place. And I hope that we can have more and more of these things. But at the end, some people live since nearly 20 years in the same house, and it is their house. They build it up, they build a garden, they see the trees growing up, and it is theirs. And some of them never want to change, and this is good.
Yeah, yeah.
Matt, could I just clarify, because we, the adults in our homes don't necessarily stay in their home forever because that's what we say. It's because that's what somebody might choose.
Right.
We, just as Norbert described, have a whole continuum of care where people may say, you know, really want to live on my own, or I want to live with my girlfriend or my husband, my wife. I want to have roommates, or I want to have an apartment or whatever. And we really, just as Norbert described, help people achieve those goals.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a view. It is not what we have in all cases. Sometimes we are able, but I hope we can do it in all cases and can offer them the things they have in their mind.
Right, absolutely. It's not, and there, I know from my experience, it isn't available in all cases. And there are a lot of mitigating circumstances as to why that isn't available in all cases.
Yeah. Karen, you describe a really, and I've had the, haven't been able to visit yet because of COVID, but I look forward to it. But you have a really great setup. You have, you have the farm, and then you're on the island, which is just very beautiful. But then you have, is it 9 or 10 like studio apartments and sort of like a main house with a kitchen? Is that how it's set up?
Yeah, it is. We have 9 in Solvang, and then the setup with a kitchen and what do you call it? A share room where we all come together and have playing and food and talking and whatever need to enjoy and relaxing. And then we have one living from outside. There's like 2 kilometers from the group home.
Okay.
So he lives between the employment area, and then he go walk.
So that sounds like a little bit of a hybrid between a group home, which here, Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, but a group home is like just a house, a 4-bedroom.
It could be, Massachusetts, you do 4 to 6 individuals living in a home.
And that's a government.
Yeah, that's our license. Anything larger than 5 individuals is considered an institution, which is frowned upon.
Yeah. Do you think, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but is that the right number, 4 to 6? Karen, you have 9. Do you feel like 9 is a good population size for like social dynamics?
I think it depends on how the building is. We don't have 9 together. We have 2 in one house, and then we have 1 in another house, and then we have the 6 in one house, and then 1 outside. So it is, I think it depends of the area, but I also feel that we have been slowly being grown up to 10. And for my opinion, 10 is the highest number if you are close. Not more close than that. I think then it's better to have, like Lisa, about 6 is a good number. If they are really close together and have to eat and join mail, all the same things. But it depends a lot of how the building is. We have the space between. You have to walk from the apartments into the sharing room. So
more
I
of
think
a
that makes, So I think if it's one house, I will also recommend 4, 6, more than that.
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting setup. Norbert, what has been your experience with sort of, size? I've been hearing a lot today about apartments as a sort of up and coming thing. What is your...
My favorite is absolutely to have apartments, but some people love to be in a smaller group, and so the number of 4 is when I could decide it without the government, I would say 4 is the maximum, 3 or 4, and the others we should have to offer apartments. These apartments could be in my mind in a building, But in this building, there should be very separate things, and they can do things with them or with others or not. So over the last 22 years, we had a time where we could only build up group homes of 12 people. And this is what we have. 1 or 2 of our group homes have this high number. In this period, it was not, there was no other chance. So, but what we try to do is to split these in maybe in 2, 4, and a 6er group. But if I could do what I want, I close these and build up houses which we built up to now. In these days, we open one of these which have only apartments, but social rooms in this building, so that they can do things together.
Yeah,
but they can be separated. Yeah,
so that's really sounds like what Karen is describing. Really, like a main house. Yes, Karen.
Yeah, we experienced that when we get 10, we actually had to change our social rooms. We had to put the table different. We had to change all the room because it was not the right way, because it was one long table and that was not a good idea. So to change the environment inside the room, it helped. So just what Norbert also said, it can be too many.
Yeah.
Craig Moore in Australia, I was hoping he could join, but it's the middle of the night for him, so we let him off the hook. But he's built these beautiful apartment buildings in Brisbane, which I think were in some part influenced by you, Norbert. Is that correct?
Yes, he used the chance to travel around the world, like you will do, or the others do, and he made a mix of all these things he saw. And yes, I know what he built up there, and it is a replica or a copy of some of these things we have in the inner city.
Yeah,
and this is apartment. This is the idea of apartment focused things. Yes. Yeah.
Craig has been great. He's shared a lot of this, and actually my wife and I are sort of gathering a lot of these materials, and we're going to make videos and floor plans and blueprints and stuff available to anyone who's interested. But Craig said that we can't change the whole world, but we can really change a little part of it. And what he built down there is absolutely amazing. It's a 2 or 3 story building. I think it has 3 apartments on each floor, and then a common kitchen, sort of like Karen describes. And then the residents can choose to either have the meals brought up to their room, or they can have them in the social environment. And I think what I've heard from all of you and from others is that, sometimes people with Prader-Willi, it's a complicated mix of like being highly sociable but also needing some space to cool off and have some private space. So it's sort of like architecturally, if you think about the design, it's really a important feature. But it does sound like the state of the art is gravitating toward kind of what all of you are describing, which is independence and autonomy centered around support and social opportunity.
May I add these? The idea behind this apartment is that we can support them much more individualized. Then, if there are 2 people, one is able to do these and the other not. So you have to restrict one of them, and therefore it is helpful. But on the other hand, they should not be isolated. They should not be isolated. They should have the chance, but not always. And if we have only a group of 6 and they have to do the things together, then we provoke by these structure conflicts.
Right.
And in this way we can reduce these things.
Yeah, that seems complicated. So I wish we had 2 hours, and I so much I want to cover in 1 hour, so I have to keep going here. In real estate, they say location, location, location. And in PWS, my experience has been staffing, staffing, staffing. Would you agree with that? And also, maybe we could start with you, Lee. Staff is everything, right? Training
staff is absolutely everything. Hiring qualified staff is the most important thing, and providing them with the training and the support and the supervision and the environment which they can most succeed.
How do you do it? I mean, I know the staff that we interact with at Latham is just wonderful, and I,
Mhm.
I just can't say enough about them. But I mean, in this world, that we live in, how do you do it? How do you attract them, retain them, train them? And that'll be for everyone on the panel, that question.
Yeah, we use a lot of different methods in order to attract them. What we have found is that our staff, for the most part, are our best recruiters.
Yeah.
What we are doing is we're sort of right now revamping some of our social media and things like that to reach different populations and different groups. Certainly we have, the Twitter and the Facebook and all of that, but we're changing that to use more modern themes, modern pictures. For example, last night we posted a really great one, which was my staff, and it had a headline of at Latham we care about more than we care about all living creatures, and the staff are rescuing a snapping turtle.
Careful.
Yeah, so we were really trying to have people join a culture, join an environment.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
I think when I think of supporting and retaining staff, certainly it's the training, certainly it's the supervision, but I think most is culture. Most is an environment that is people can learn, people can grow, people can have fun, but the people really feel that they belong. And I think my staff feel that they belong, that they heard, that they're seen. I think that creates the best culture for them.
Yeah.
We require, not only do we require the 2 weeks training at the beginning of somebody starting, but we provide a minimum rather of 20 hours of additional training each year for all staff.
Norbert, how about you? How do you, you're a part of a larger organization with, I think you said 6,000 or 7,000 total clients. How do you think about retaining, training?
We have only 3,000, not 6 or 7, but 3 is enough. Yeah. But yeah, we developed over the time a training program, and it is overall 150 hours. And it includes the first thing, which I think is the main thing, to understand what is Prader-Willi, all the aspects of these, and then go on with behavior, understanding, changing, communication, physical exercise, nutrition, verbal de-escalation, hospitation in the other living field. So overall, it's a very huge program. But the first thing when we think about people who work with people with Prader-Willi is if they have the right way of thinking about people. So it is necessary that you love people, and in special people with Prader-Willi. So what we see sometimes is that after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, people say, I'm not able to work in this field.
Yeah.
But many of the others are very, very long in this field. And people from outside often say, how can you do this? It's so intensive. But I think it is intensive, yes, but if we support them intensive and give them the chance to understand and to be successful in seeing what happens by their way of taking care, then many of them say, I don't want to work in other fields. The people with Prader-Willi are so interesting and fascinating to me. But we have to give them the methods, the tools, and to support them.
Yeah. That's amazing. 150 hours. Karen, you're on the smaller scale.
Yeah.
You're not 3,000. You've got 9.
10.
10. How do you? You're in a very different environment as well. How do you attract and retain people?
First of all, I will say I'm really agreed with both Lee and Norbert with all they're saying. And then I will say we are a little place, yes, and because we are like a family place, we of course do it in a different way. So we have a tradition to say the first 3 months They can call me nearly day and night because I like to be in front. And I know if I get any question, and I said, no question is a stupid question. I want all the questions, because you more questions they ask, you better we can be in front and to help the staff, because when the staff start, they say, how are we going to learn this? Because we do all this individual. They say it's not possible to remember all these things, and of course it's not. So we had a little fun card also say, I need to go to toilet, and that's a card we use a lot because
That's a great card.
you need often need to talk with the other staff that have been there longer to what is going on here, how I do it, what is good, what is not so good, and you just need this 2-second break, and you can't get it if you're standing there. So we use the toilet card a lot and say, I need to go toilet, and everybody understand that. That's so understanding.
That's off limits.
That's yes. So it gives a lot of space to come out, and then you can go in again, and you can be in front, and you can be I know what I'm doing, and it's a lot of this structure, and I feel I like to support my staff to be trusting themselves quick, so the resident with Prader-Willi don't feel I'm not safe with them. I feel uncomfortable. So
Okay.
that's one of my main card also.
So Karen's story is amazing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, but Solvang, I think, was started by your mom with one.
No, not Solvang. She started another one, some same size, but then she closed, and I started, and we moved from the place he had to move to our Solvang.
Okay, so Solvang is Karen is a private sort of owner operator, which is very unique as far as I've not encountered that anywhere that I can think of. Yeah, I
should see it.
We have to call Mom. That's my card. Mom will know.
Yeah.
And then Jerry Puglia, who's the head of the Latham School. You gotta ask Jerry. He has the answers.
We always call Mom.
So I want to talk, we don't have tons of time, but I want to talk about food. We've actually gone pretty deep into this conversation without talking much about it. It's synonymous with Prader-Willi syndrome, but there are really different philosophies on this topic that I have noticed. How do you handle food? And maybe Norbert, we could start with you, because you seem more comfortable in this sort of having exposure to, I think McDonald's was your example, but is food locked up in your adult homes, or how do you handle that?
It is in many cases, but this is not the thing we want to see in 10 years. So but it is often the situation when people come to us and they have a history with food. And what we try with the very young people, this 5, 6, or 8 year, when they come to us, we try to make food as a normal part of life. Breathing, eating, running, normal things, and not special, not very bad, not very good. Normal things you have to do when you will still alive. There are some people that think that is, you can't desensitize food within Prader-Willi. Has that not been your experience? You feel that you can? Yeah, we can, but this is one of the main principles. We want to make it not so interesting, because always when we talk about Prader-Willi, we talk about food. And I think more and more we have to talk about other things, cognition, social, emotional things. This is important. And so absolutely, we have these situations that people which are living together in a group, and this is what I mean. It is not the best thing to live in a group. Maybe 5 people are able to handle food, things in the refrigerator, but the 6th one is not able. So all the others have to accept the situation that the things are locked, and therefore apartments are the better way of developing competences in handling food. Our principle is to start very early, to include them, to make mistakes, to eat things which are not allowed, but to discuss these things and find solutions for this. How can you handle it better in the next way? By yourself. So all the other things, and also food, the principle is that they have the chance to learn to handle it by themselves, to be self-determined about food. And we saw and we see that this is possible, and that they are able to walk in this city without someone else to them, no staff with them. This is what they can do.
Have you seen that change over your 20 years doing this? Have you actually seen a change in that behavior?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, people come to us and they are so fixed on food. But the thing is, if they have a framework around them and they know they get these things, they do not have to collect things by them. And they are more resources in their mind, thinking about painting, thinking about dancing, thinking about partnership, thinking about school and other things. So if food is a normal thing, then there is much more resources to do other things, which are very interesting for them. And I think Karen and Lee know these situations, and you too. If they are interested in others, they forgot to eat.
Mm.
And this is what I think we have to develop the other things, that they are important for them. And on the other way, food is less important when the other things are growing up.
Lee, what is your, I mean, Norbert, it sounds like you're trying to get everyone, and it takes, everyone's on a different schedule, but you're trying to get everyone to the place where the food is not locked. That's the goal.
That's
Yeah.
Individual. Some people have the chance and some need it over a long time, maybe up to the end of their life.
Yeah.
This is what we see. And we do not think that all people have the chance to do all these things by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But individual, as much self-determination as possible, by food, by running, by having money, and so on.
Yeah. Lee, how about you? How do you handle this?
Well, how we handle it is in our children's program, it's a food secure environment. Primarily because there are 50 children with varying either anxiety or food search or hoarding issues that come up in terms of or stealing the food off of one of the fellow students' plate or things like that occur. So that it's really, we try to control the environment. In the adult homes, the group homes, some of our kitchens are sort of closed off with at least you have to open a door in order to get into the kitchen as opposed to be able to walk straight through. And some are not, but they're mostly food secure. And I would agree with Norbert. It's primarily because of a group of people living together.
Mm-hmm.
To consider each individual. We believe that people should live in the least restrictive placement as possible and have the least restrictive practices put upon them. So we do have adults and children who food is not particularly an issue for them. You know, they're not food seekers. They don't tend to get anxious over it. They can participate in helping preparing a meal and so forth. And on the other hand, we have very high food seekers and a lot of anxiety around it. I think that with the individuals that we have that have anxiety around food but are not food seekers, those are people we can help support. And one of the things that I have seen change is a growing change in philosophy, including at Latham, that let's get people, we live in a food environment in the United States. Food is associated with everything. Food is in the workplace. If you go to a supermarket in the United States, you get to the checkout counter and there's all sorts of candy and treats and all sorts of stuff at checkout. If you go into a work environment, they have employee kitchens and timeout areas where there's all sorts of food there. And the more we can support and teach our individuals to live in an environment where there is food, it opens up their opportunities for living. It opens up opportunities for the community. It opens up opportunities for employment. Mm-hmm. And what we want to do.
Karen, I remember you telling me that in the main house on Solvang, you do like the residents participate in cooking the meals sometimes. How do you guys?
Yeah, we also think that food is actually not the problem. It is, like Norbert said, it is depend of how activity we offer and how we make it not interested the food. So we have been offered them to come to the kitchen, and we have been seeing a lot of different changing during the years, and that is not so interested anymore because it's not forbidden. So if you like to join, you can come one-to-one and you are within the kitchen. And it's not so many they want anymore to come in the kitchen, and some want to come just for helping 1 hour or something, and then they are okay again. So we see also it's changed, and really agreed about is more about the employment and the environment and the staff around them to motivate about how to fill your day with the possible things. We have some with the fridges also. So for example, in the morning they come in and then they get the things to their own flat, and they can join some of the meal, take some of the it for the work, and the rest they can figure out themselves. We have even some they're hiding the food so they don't eat it, and then they collecting some bread to put beside, and this. That's a little different way. Also quite interested. Why is that going on? And it get old. Then what do you do with that? So that's quite interested. I think we see the opposite.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me how you're all operating in different countries, different cultures, and yet, you know, a lot of the things that you're talking about and a lot of the trends, actually, things that are changing, things that are new, are very similar.
Similar.
Yeah, which is not, I guess, not surprising, but it's sort of kind of inspiring, I guess.
Yeah. I have a quick question, Matt, if I can, of my colleagues. What we've found is as folks age, the food issue becomes less and less and less. And I don't know whether that's, others have found a similar thing?
No.
No. Okay.
Not really. We have our oldest is 54, and he's really addicted to food. He have big problem with it. So no, not really.
Okay.
How about you, Norbert?
Yeah, I think it depends really on the situation that they are longer in your institution and you support them longer. They have the chance to learn things.
Yeah, which comes first?
Yeah, this is, and I think it depends not on the age. It depends on the support they get. Sometimes they have the chance and someone is coming on a higher level, someone on a lower level. But I think it depends on the way of taking care of them. And let me add some discussion to this food security. I think we make too long the mistake that we take them away from food and think that they are not able to handle food. No, I think give them the chance to make mistakes, and our job is to discuss this with them, reflect it, and that they have the chance to learn what the mistake was and what an alternative behavior could be. If we do not do this with them, they do not learn it by themselves. This is our support. So not take them away from food. No, bring them in contact with food. And this is different to the years before.
That would be very ironic if food security was actually causing food anxiety.
Well, you know, Matt, when you think about it, if we apply it to a typical population, anything that my parents told me I could not have, so much more attractive.
Yeah. We have all the time had it's possible to come, and we see it, like you say, it's not so interested, and I see that they're not interested for the food, but I see that didn't interest for that desire to come to the kitchen and to get the possibility, and that's, I think, like Norbert says, many years, and they feel comfortable. They know they get what they have to get, and they get the structure, and they are comfortable.
Yeah, that's great.
And Lee, what you said, that we saw some children, they come to us, or we come in contact, and they are not so interested in food. I think this is the result of the information of the parents. They are very early informed, and if they have the good information and they do these things, they support their children very early to make food as a normal thing and not as a forbidden thing.
Yeah.
And this is the way I think early intervention should go.
So you're saying that if food never gets out of control in the first place, that maybe it's not as, it does not become as learned a behavior. Is that what you mean, Norbert, by early intervention?
Yeah, I really know that the food addiction is there, and this is a part of Prader-Willi, and they have it over their lifespan. But the question is how we can support them to develop competences to handle these problems.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a problem that I do things on my head, and the interesting thing is, how can I learn to control these things? And if parents have very early information about this, what they can do and which way they do it, and so on, then we see these children Lee described, and we saw in also, yeah.
Well, we've run out of time. I have a whole page of questions I didn't get to. We didn't talk about technology, vocation, a lot of things. So maybe we'll have to do this again in Orlando next year. But I want to thank all of you so much for being with me today, but also for everything you do for the PWS community. I mean, I have been, humbled and amazed by the strength of people like you who support people with PWS and help families like my family. And, really very heartfelt thanks go out around the world to all of you.
And thanks to all the parents who share their children with us all.
That's great. Well, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing everyone in person somewhere, someday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.